Hi, I am Jake, or Jacob, and I'm Gigi's best friend. I'm not super comfortable in front of the camera, so bear with me on this. Tonight I'm going to be talking to you about the vetting process that I have personal knowledge of regarding the Brian Koberger termination letter. First, I'm going to talk to you about how the letter came into Gigi's possession. Then I'm going to talk to you about the personal vetting that I did beyond that. Both of those were prior to any release of it. After that, I'm going to talk to you about my personal knowledge related to the News Nation vetting process and my personal knowledge related to the New York Times vetting process. Obviously, they probably had substantial vetting that I know nothing about, but I'm going to tell you what I do know. Now, I personally have read this letter many times, and there'll be a series of videos dealing with the questions and concerns related to particulars about the video at other times. This one today is simply about the vetting process. I also personally know the source and communicate with source on a reasonably regular basis. So my personal vetting of the source started as soon as Gigi got the letter from the source. I read it. I wanted to see what was behind it. There were things to it that didn't make sense to me, so I wanted to do some additional checking. At that point in time, I had my first interactions, direct interactions with the source. I saw IDs being held up in one hand next to the face of source and could see that they were the same individual. I could verify names. I could verify the other information that was contained in the IDs through publicly accessible information. And I did that. I did a lot of deep diving into various social media, various databases, just a lot of various places that you can find information. And from that, I was able to determine that the person that I was talking to was actually the person matched the name. After I was satisfied that I was talking to the right person, I then went on to have them walk me through a letter. After I was sure that source was who they say they were, I went on to vet the process by which the termination letter came into source's possession. And I'm not going to talk very much about that right now because that will lead too much information at this point in time. I will also say there will be a whole nother video. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of, quite honestly, BS about confidential sources. And that is done by people that either don't know the role of confidential sources in law enforcement, don't understand history, don't really understand anything except for they have an insatiable need to know and an entitlement that feels like they should know, and I don't know the right language, but saying that nothing is actual proof unless they know. And that is just false. Their stamp on something has nothing to do with whether it is true or not. That's a whole nother video, so I don't want to get sidetracked with that. I'm also going to do a follow-up video to this of how I actually fact-checked the document. But again, that is not even the purpose of tonight's video. It's just about the process of vetting the actual source. Okay? I also want to be clear that neither I nor Gigi are saying that the facts contained in the document actually happened. We don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. And that has kind of been the entire thrust of Gigi's Help Me Work the Dates videos. Let's see what we can find. Let's see if we can prove it, disprove it, or whatnot. And by that I mean that I'm not doubting the source. In fact, the source has proved reliable on other previous data that they got in proof of contradictions and lies that other people were telling. So, and I have, again, personal knowledge of that. But what I am saying is that just because something is on letterhead and you can see a signature does not make it true. For instance, I could write a letterhead for, let's just say, my company. And on that letterhead, I could stand outside in the rain and I could write, "It is sunny and 110 degrees outside." And I could sign it. Just because it was on letterhead and I signed it doesn't mean it's true. The facts are the facts, and they have to be independently verified. Now, a letterhead and a signature give clues to that verification, but they do not in and of themselves verify anything. We'll deal with that a lot more in depth when I talk about the process that I used to actually vet the letter. Okay? I also want to interject right here, and it's very important that you guys know this. Gigi has been taking the brunt of a lot of hate, anger, bullying, lies, all kinds of doxing, crazy stuff. And I want to say right here and right now that I am the one who told her not to post the letter. I didn't tell her. I suggested that she not do it. And I am the one that suggested to source that they not reveal themselves at this time. Revelation can always come at any point in time, but you can't undo a revelation that you've made that has caught that just because it's starting to cause tremendous harm. So my experience and my belief is that stuff should be taken slow and methodically and each step thought about. And honestly, as I have seen people's response to this, I am so glad that Gigi and the source took my advice on that and did not reveal the letter at this point in time. Now, as to News Nation, I have direct personal knowledge because I had direct personal communication with a couple of producers on the show. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I know. I know that a producer contacted Gigi about the story. Okay, I don't really know the title of that individual, but she called herself a producer when we spoke, and I would kind of think of it as kind of like an assistant, associate kind of producer that is in like the beginning fact stages, gathering the facts and helping put them together to be passed off on, determine if they really want to pursue a story or not. I don't really know. We didn't really discuss that. I do know, however, that prior to the first News Nation story, this producer and Gigi had a minimum of 3 hours of conversation discussing everything related to the source, vetting them, all of that kind of information. I do know that because I was personally present for part of it. I was in and out of the room for probably about 3 hours, and when I left the room for the final time, they were still talking. I have no idea how much longer they went on. I do know that there was additional lengthy conversation that happened the night that Banfield released the first story. And again, I think that was probably a lot of friend support, and I know about this because it was confirmed to me. I wasn't present for that one. It was confirmed to me by Gigi and reiterated by the producer. The day after that story first story came out, I spent the entire day pretty much texting back and forth with this same producer, trying to schedule a time for Gigi and Source and Ashley Banfield to get on the phone together to discuss everything so that they could directly vet the source themselves. I know that there were a number of scheduling conflicts between the parties and that didn't happen early in the day as they had hoped, and got pushed into later in the evening. I had returned home from an out-of-town trip when I came to tell Gigi the final time that had been agreed upon, and I was present for that actual call, at least the beginning of it. It was supposed to be about a 5-minute call to meet, talk with the source, and gather some further information. I know it took quite a bit longer than that, and I was there for probably the first 10 or 15 minutes, not officially on the call, but I heard a higher-up producer, which I believe had some authority as a producer, get on the phone, and I heard Gigi on the phone, and I heard Source on the phone, and I heard Gigi confirm that everyone was on the call, and I heard Source reveal Source's self to the producer at News Nation. Again, Ashley Banfield was supposed to be on this call. I did not hear her at this time. After that questioning began, and I had some other things to take care of, so I could overhear it, but I was no longer engaged in the conversation. And honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think there were some other people present, but I don't know for sure, and I don't even know who they would have been. I don't know if Ashley ever came on. I personally did not hear her, so I can't speak to that if she came on after I left. This 5-minute conversation ended up being approximately long, an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. I don't know. It was long, substantially longer than 5 minutes, for sure. At about the end of the conversation, news was starting to break that News Nation reporter that had been arrested was in fact arrested. And so everyone was kind of scattering because that was like a true breaking story that they had to go deal with. The producers asked Gigi for copies of documents that we had used in the vetting process and for a copy of the termination letter. And I know that they received them because she had trouble sending the documents to News Nation because of the size of the files. And so I helped her overcome the file size issues, and I set it up, and I pushed send myself to an email that I recognized as a producer from News Nation. When I say that News Nation requested the documents, what technically happened is they requested them of the source, and Source directed Gigi to go ahead and send them on Source's behalf to News Nation. Once they received the documents, I can't tell you what they did with them because I would not have been a part of that. But I do know that they received them well over 24 hours before the story finally aired. I do know that they did independent vetting and sourcing because when I saw the story that they put out, there was information that I didn't know that was not contained in the letter. So that's what I know about News Nation, that they did have direct contact with the source, that they did have the letter, that they were able to verify it, and that source did request confidentiality from them. Now, as to the New York Times, I have personal knowledge that during the vetting process that was taking place at News Nation, that approximate day or so, that Mike Baker from the New York Times contacted Gigi and engaged in discussions with her regarding the letter, the source. I have knowledge that was confirmed to me by all, Mr. Baker, Gigi, and the source, that Mike Baker had his own phone conversation with the source, and I was not present for that. I was out of town. But those three independently confirmed that directly to me, either via text or via phone. I also know that the New York Times got the same vetting information that Gigi had sent to News Nation at the source's request. I know this because, again, same issues, file size, and because of that, she needed help again sending it. So I put in the email address, I made the adjustments so that the file size would work, and I pushed send to an address that I recognized as Mike Baker's at the New York Times. So source confirmed directly to me that that call took place. I listened to a phone call as it was happening between Mike Baker and Gigi at later in the day after I had returned back to town, detailing the conversation, different things that they were still trying to figure out, loose ends they were trying to tie up, questions they had. I know that Mike Baker talked with the source and received source documents at least more than 24 hours before his story was released online, and it also contained additional information which I was not aware of before his story released. It was not information that was contained in the termination letter. It was not information that he obtained from the source of the termination letter. I don't have any specific information of who the source of that additional information was, where it was obtained, how it was obtained, anything like that, because I would not have been privy to any of that information. I just know that it wasn't from the source that I know and that I've spoken with. I also know that the story was set to be released originally about 11 a.m. I don't remember what time zone that was on the Friday that it was released. I was told that directly by Mike Baker. I also know that there were probably a couple of rounds of revisions. I spoke with him on the phone, and I believe that that story, after him taking information to his editor asking questions, asking for clarifications or additional information, I think that went through probably at least a couple of rounds. I don't know all of their back workings, but it seems to me, from my perspective and the conversations that we had, that it was probably at least that many. And I know that instead of releasing it at 11 a.m., they released it. You could check online. I don't know what time it was. It seems like it was 5 or 6 Central Time. I don't remember exactly, but that is publicly available online if you're curious. Everything I've said in this video, I have direct personal knowledge of, either from hearing it myself, from seeing it with my own eyes, from receiving text from an individual directly, from a number that I would recognize as theirs. None of this is anyone else speaking through me or telling me facts to add in. In fact, I rejected adding additional details that I do not have personal knowledge of. So all of this information I have direct personal knowledge of. So as I said at the beginning, I have direct knowledge of the personal vetting process that I undertook. I have direct knowledge of the timeline from which Gigi has known the source. I have direct personal knowledge of the processes of New York Times and News Nation. As I said at the beginning, I will be doing additional videos coming up in relatively short order relating to the process of all the different questions I've seen about the letter itself. I had those questions myself. So before we did anything, I went out and I looked up things and I came up with conclusions that made sense to me. So I will be sharing those with you. I'm not saying that they're true. I'm saying they made sense to me. They were logical conclusions. I've got some upcoming videos that I'm working on right now that will explain the process of the questions that people had specifically related to the form that related to the letter. Most of those objections are relatively easily, in my mind, to overcome. I had them myself and I went out and I found the answers. I'll also be doing some things that relate to what is really going on here. I'm working on one right now about FERPA and the gag order and WSU and what they say and how they all interplay, which is very different than it's being played in the true crime scene. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding, so that's what I know. Look forward to getting to know you. Feel free to answer any question, or not answer any questions, I'll answer any questions. Feel free to ask any questions related to the termination letter itself. You can ask the source. I'm not going to reveal it. But anything else, I'll tell you if I don't know the answer. I'll go look for it the best I can if I don't know the answer. but probably all the questions that you have had or have heard or have seen are questions that I had myself. Thank you. Good night.
Are y'all not so glad that you got someone who can sit still to explain that to you? I want to thank each and every one of you who are out there that have just sent love in the direction of these kids. You know, we spend so much time now talking about the alleged responsible party. That gets us in similar mindsets as the alleged responsible party. I want to repeat, I owe nothing to either college. I owe nothing to anyone who has sought to discredit me, and in doing so got all of the context for how hard it was for you guys to get that information. And when I say you guys, I mean the people. And I don't just mean the American people. I mean the people. That's you. I didn't want you to see that context for any other reason than it might make sense. There's a moth in my light. ADHD squirrel. Okay, what was I saying? See? I'm gonna try to stand here. Everything I do that's not is my best. Okay, let's do it. The reason that it's important to see the context is not for any other reason than so that you, the people, I'm talking to you, those people out there with the pulse, maybe the people in the case discussion group that we talked to last night who hadn't really heard much about it. I cried. I keep crying over and over and over again. I would be so hurt if this letter had not found its way to me, and I was just the little Gigi from Arkansas who was following a lot of really big platforms to get that information from, and somehow it was held from me. I would be really hurt. Especially if I'm the same person I am, which I am, who's deeply following the case and has been since the beginning. So, I approve all that, and I commit to leaving my second TikTok open. It's at YABOUND here. I'll figure this YouTube out eventually. I'm going to only leave those up for context, because context is important. And I think if maybe I hadn't had mass, reporting and all of that, and I hadn't had my, constitutional rights violated over and over and over again with people seeking to silence me on purpose, which is so weird. Quick question, how long did y'all spend on the Joseph Morris fake audio? Now, it was determined to be fake. It was debunked, so it's fake. How much time have you spent on this alleged, which is how a good researcher would call it, term letter, which has been verified. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Me, my bestie, News Nation producer above her, News Nation, Mike Baker, New York Times. The real hero in all of this is the human to get the people critical information. It's not about the physical document. It's about the dates. There's so many memes about me. So weird. Years ago, I wanted to be viral. I don't have any interest in fake numbers, fake views, bots running my crap, people pretending to do stuff. I just want legitimate data in front of me. I demand it. I hope you guys are really taking into consideration what you've heard. What if you solve the case? What if you solve the case? My friend, my family? Because that's what the people are. Men thinking that I'm trying to come on to them because I call them family. Like, what? I'm from Arkansas. Everybody's family. What if you solve the case? Let's say you take a chance and you work a theory that ties what we've known for a while, that BK's letter that I don't think was mailed to him. I've been accused of going to get it out of his mailbox. It scares me that more true crimers don't understand that they probably knew at least by November 29th. Oh, I'm so scared that this stuff is not embedded in your brain. They didn't mail that letter because they had all this planned. I think. They didn't mail the letter, guys. Nobody could have gotten it out of the mailbox. I certainly wouldn't waste my time, because that's what is valuable to me, trying to get to Moscow when I have residents in both communities that I can just holler at. And what I can tell you is that I do everything right in the light. Right in the light. I've been asked to go to inbox by big leaders of big groups that there's a lot of chaotic bullying going on, and I and my friend are no longer involved in because we showed proof of it. Isn't that alarming? The families are in there. That's suppression. I don't care if it's private or not. Mass reporting leads to the whole hashtag being unfindable, or my name on Twitter at myhenlife in the people tab. That's weird. Isn't that weird?
It's probably nothing. I'm probably just crazy, or on drugs, or somebody needs to go get my grandbaby because, oh my gosh, she's going to hurt them. She's probably working for the Ann Taylor.
Yo, if all my stuff wasn't suppressed, you'd be able to see that I made a video and asked somebody to get it to Ann, telling her to work her butt off. And that we have the best on it, and she should work her butt off. Because if he's the one who did it, she has the ability to make sure there's no way it can be overturned. That's a good lawyer. Do I think the gag order should be there? Absolutely not. Not on the families. No. I'm just telling y'all, one of my kids has some kind of something happened, and I don't care. I don't care if people like me had to stand up because the families couldn't. Y'all think they don't know? I don't know if they know. I've tried to run in the other direction because I knew if I just let the families, all 4 of them, share it with you, you would certainly not believe it. I have a past, just like you. And I did not overcome it. I battled my way through it. And I'm different. And I'm a lot. But I am not a lot to somebody who says, I recognize the genuine heart in there. And so if you don't recognize the genuine heart, you are welcome to skip over every video that has my face in it. I won't trick you. I only did clickbait one time. Y'all, I said I was going to tell the source on TikTok. Now, this is when I was still trying to get people to stop being anti-letter because it's truth and more important than what Dylan said. Or what all these weird doxers are putting out as a narrative, and other channels are like putting them up. And good, you should discount them. You should question it. You should let them come on the show. But the problem is those videos do not help the case. They don't. What Dylan might have said or didn't say, none of that. Nobody on the street is going to solve that. Y'all, come on. You don't know that in June there's going to be a tiny little morsel? Guys, come on. We got to get this. We got to get on the same team. And we got to make sure that we're all telling the truth and not diverting critical information that's been verified away from the case. Truth is, it ain't about you. And it ain't about me. And it ain't about making blood money off these babies. And it ain't about this alleged responsible party. It's about these babies' story, that November 13th is not their story. Remember when we used to hear all about them? So, you can do it or not. It's fine. My heart sends out messages whether or not people see this video. It's just how it is. I'm not a witch. I love Jesus. I cuss all the time, which is why I'll never be able to have a platform without editing pretty much all of me out. I'm not a psychic, and I'm not a regular person, as I've stated before. I'm so much more than that, and so are you. And so, I just want to say each of their names. And maybe you will repeat out loud. Okay? Kaylee Goncalves. Think about her. Think about how sassy she is. She's a beast. Little southern beast. Think about her. See her in your mind. That's all I've been using is my unchained mind, y'all. I haven't been doing witchcraft. Not that I even have a thought about that. It's just not what I was doing. If you do it, it's fine. You know? Ethan Chapin. He reminds me so much of my 3 boys. Think about him. Visualize his face. Visualize him and his triplets. See his face. Xana Kernodle. I think she's my spirit animal when I heard that. Like, she's always just looking to, like, make people laugh. And, yeah. See her in your mind. Think about her. Think about how much your energy might impact her family and her mama. And so, think about her. And think about her mama. In a good way. News Nation loves Xana's mom cares so much. Nobody told me that. I just know. I'm really trying for you guys. Madison Logan. My favorite thing that I've heard is her lover, her life partner, say that she would say something like, so dang funny. And people would say, did that come out of that tiny blonde girl? Let's go through it again. I want you to see them. I want you to let them imprint on your heart so that when you come across stuff that doesn't really make sense how it happened, that you'll remember that a lot more is going on than we can see and hear and know. It just is. And so, Madison Logan. Out loud, please. As a collective, we have the ability to help this case in way more ways than we've ever thought possible. Okay? So, Madison Logan, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, the Logan family, the Goncalves family, the Chapin family, and the Kernodle family, and the prosecuting attorney, and the defense attorney, the judge, every student who saw something they could never recover from, potential victims that are out there and are afraid to come forward. Love, truth, honesty, integrity, character, bravery. That's what's been called into question, and I just wanted to get you the information. Thank you for listening.